The first time Nathan Hale missed the school pickup, it wasn't because he forgot. It was because the quarterly board review for Hale Tech ran over, as usual. He'd sent a text to his assistant, returned to the call, not thinking twice. He didn't hear the buzz of his phone again until an hour later when he finally stood, eyes gritty and mouth dry from hours of corporate speak. The screen lit up with a string of missed calls. Charlie's school and one unfamiliar number. He called back, mentally rehearsing the apology he'd craft for his 7-year-old son. Charlie was used to delays, reschedules, adjusted expectations. He was a good kid, patient in the way of children who had learned that patience was the only way to survive disappointment. But when the call connected, it wasn't the school secretary's clipped professionalism that answered. It was a woman's voice, warm, low, slightly winded. "Mr. Hale." "Yes, Nathan Hale, who is this?" "This is Mia Rivera. I was volunteering for pickup today at Brookfield. Your son was the last one left." He straightened. "Is he okay?" "He's fine," she said, a little quiet. "He waited a long time." Nathan rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Where is he now?" "With me." "You took him?" he asked, sharp and unfiltered. There was a pause, then he was scared. "The school was closing. I called you 3 times. His hand dropped from his face. "I didn't mean that the way it sounded. I'm sorry. Can I get your address?" She hesitated again, and he could almost hear her assessing him through the line. Then she gave him an address in a part of town he hadn't been to in years. When Nathan pulled up 20 minutes later, the sky was turning amber with early spring sunset, and a gust of wind tossed blossoms off a cherry tree in the yard. He expected the house to be modest, given the zip code, but it was warm and full of details. Ceramic planters on the porch, wind chimes shaped like crescent moons, a bike leaning against the railing. It smelled like lilac and something baking. He was halfway up the steps when the door opened. Charlie barreled into him without hesitation. "Dad," he said, clinging, his voice was small. "I waited." "I know, buddy, I'm sorry." Nathan held him, aware suddenly of how cold his son's fingers were, how tight his arms wrapped. He glanced up and saw her. Mia Rivera had the kind of presence that didn't announce itself. She just stood there in jeans and a faded black sweater, barefoot, one hand still on the doorknob. Her hair was dark and curled around her shoulders. Her eyes were watchful. "Thank you," he said, "for looking after him." She nodded once. "He told me you were in a meeting." Nathan cleared his throat. "I should have been there. That won't happen again." She didn't say anything. Then Charlie looked up at her. "Can we finish the drawing?" "I'll give it to you at school," Mia said gently. "You should go with your dad." Nathan watched the quiet exchange, something unspoken passing between them. On the drive home, Charlie held the corner of the drawing he'd been working on with her, a bright house, a tall tree, and 2 stick figures beneath it. "You like her?" Nathan asked. Charlie nodded, gaze still on the drawing. "She listens." That night Nathan didn't open his laptop. He sat with Charlie while he ate leftover spaghetti and let the TV play in the background. His son didn't ask questions, didn't press, but he stayed close. Even as Nathan tucked him into bed, he held his hand. And Nathan, lying awake in the silence of his high-rise apartment, couldn't stop thinking about a woman who didn't flinch when he was late, who didn't scold or flatter, who simply did the right thing when someone else's child needed comfort. He had no idea that missing that pickup would be the most important thing he'd ever fail at. Nathan showed up at school 2 days later with an apology note. Not for the administration, he'd already done that with a donation. This one was for Mia. He waited near the volunteers' table until he saw her. She was stacking paper plates into a recycling bin, sleeves pushed up, ponytail slightly messy. "Ms. Rivera," he said. She looked up, surprised. "I brought you this," he said, holding out the envelope. She raised an eyebrow. "You don't need to thank me." "I do," he said, "and I'd like to do it in person, over coffee maybe." Mia paused, her eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to him. "I don't date parents." "It's not a date, it's just coffee." "And you want to talk about your son?" He blinked. "What? No, well, maybe." That made her smile, but only a little. Mr. Hale. Nathan. Nathan, she repeated as if testing it. Your son is sweet, but I'm not a reward you get for remembering pickup. He exhaled, caught off guard. That's not what this is. She handed the envelope back. Then you can just keep showing up for him. That's the only thing that matters. He took the envelope, folded it once, and slid it into his coat pocket. Okay, he said quietly, then I'll start there. Mia turned back to her task. And Nathan Hale, CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the state, went home with his expensive apology note still burning in his pocket. But the next day, he made sure he was first in line at pickup. And the day after that, too. The next few weeks unfolded without major shifts, but something in Nathan's rhythm had changed. He was still CEO, still waking at 5, still triaging emails over black coffee, still taking investor calls that ran long. But every day at 3:15, he closed his laptop, got into his car, and drove to Brookfield Elementary with a nervous kind of urgency in his chest. Charlie would be there, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes searching the line of cars. And when he saw Nathan, his face would light up with a relief so pure it made Nathan ache. It was a slow thing, but it was real. Mia remained at the edges. She didn't linger, didn't smile easily. She was a fixture in the school courtyard, talking to the other volunteers, coaxing a jammed paper towel dispenser into working, her laugh soft but rare. Sometimes she'd kneel beside a crying child and whisper something that calmed them instantly. Sometimes she'd be gone for days, then show up again like nothing had shifted. Charlie always noticed. She helps everyone, he said one afternoon as they walked to the car, hand in hand. Even the lunch lady who gets sad. Nathan glanced down. She told you that. No, but I saw it. The next week, Charlie brought home a folded paper with a flyer. Family Volunteer Day, Parent and Child Garden Rebuild. Can we go? Charlie asked. Miss Mia's gonna be there. Nathan stared at the flyer. Saturday, 8 to noon, manual labor. The idea of spending half a day digging in the dirt with other parents made him instinctively recoil, but Charlie was watching him like he was trying not to hope too hard. So Nathan canceled his Saturday golf meeting with the CFO. And at 7:45 that morning, he stood outside Brookfield's tiny courtyard garden, holding 2 pairs of gloves and wearing his oldest sneakers. Mia was there, kneeling in the dirt beside a group of second graders. Her hands were covered in soil, a smear of it on her cheek. She glanced up as they approached. For a moment, something unreadable passed over her face. Then she nodded once and pointed them toward the shovels. Charlie worked like it mattered. He carried mulch, dug holes for tomato starters, rinsed old pots with hose water. Nathan tried to keep pace, but it had been years since he'd broken a sweat for anything that wasn't performance-based. His palms stung after half an hour. His lower back ached. He was about to sneak away for a break when a voice behind him said, "You're holding the rake wrong." He turned. Mia stood there, arms crossed, hair pulled back tight this time. There was dirt beneath her nails, a streak of green across her forearm. Nathan blinked. Is there a right way to hold a rake? Yes, she said. The side that works is the one you're not using. He looked at the rake, then back at her. You enjoy this, don't you? She shrugged. Better than spreadsheets. I have some pretty great spreadsheets, he said, straightening, but they don't smell like basil or turn your skin green. She smiled, quick and fleeting. You're getting it. Nathan looked down at the soil. I think Charlie likes it here. He doesn't talk about school much at home, but this feels like something he wants to be part of. Mia's face softened. He's a quiet connector, the kind who watches more than he talks. That's rare. Nathan looked over at his son, crouched beside a girl with pigtails, showing her how to plant a seedling without crushing the roots. I keep waiting for him to explode. You know, anger, sadness, anything. His mom left 3 years ago, moved to London. She sees him twice a year. He never really cracked. Mia was quiet for a moment. Sometimes kids like Charlie don't crack. They fold in, protect the softest parts. Doesn't mean they're fine. The words hit harder than he expected. She pointed toward a spot near the fence. We're building a raised bed there. Come help. They worked in silence for a while, passing boards and bolts, the sound of kids laughing in the background. Nathan found he liked the quiet with her. It wasn't uncomfortable. It felt earned. Later, as the event wrapped up and families trickled out, Charlie ran ahead to show Mia a worm he'd found. She crouched down to his level, completely absorbed, laughing at his enthusiasm. Nathan watched them standing back, something shifting under his ribs, something old, something unnameable. Before they left, Mia handed Charlie a small paper cup with a seedling inside. "It's time," she said, "for your windowsill." Charlie took it like it was gold. Nathan glanced at her. "Thanks for letting us be here." Mia looked at him, and for once, her expression softened without hesitation. "Just keep showing up," she said again, but this time it didn't sound like a warning, it sounded like hope. That night, as they ate takeout on the balcony, Charlie whispered, "Today was the best day." Nathan nodded slowly. Yeah, it was. He didn't open his laptop once that weekend. The time plant didn't last a week. Charlie forgot to water it, then overwatered it, then tried to feed it with juice one morning before school. By Friday, the leaves had wilted and the soil smelled faintly of sugar and citrus. Nathan found the tiny cup on the windowsill while his son was brushing his teeth. He crouched beside it, the rim soft and soggy in his hand. He thought of texting Mia, just a photo of the cup with a caption, "We failed our first plant," but he didn't. He wasn't sure they were at the texting stage. Still, she stayed in his mind more than he cared to admit. At work, he caught himself pausing during long meetings, eyes straying to the school pickup schedule now pinned to his monitor. At night, he stopped checking emails after dinner. Instead, he helped Charlie build a solar system out of ping-pong balls and wire hangers. On Monday, Charlie handed Mia a folded note at pickup. She read it, laughed quietly, and glanced at Nathan as he approached. "Charlie says the time had a tragic ending," she said. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. It went fast. "He said you tried to save it with coffee. I didn't think he'd tell you that." Mia gave a small shrug, then turned her attention back to the children. But her smile lingered just a little. Spring deepened, bringing with it the kind of warmth that made people linger outside even after dusk. At school, the kids spent more time in the courtyard, and parents who once stayed in their cars began gathering on benches, making light conversation. Nathan started showing up early, not for Charlie, but to watch the way his son lit up around the other kids. The way he stuck close to Mia when she was there, asking about bugs or books or what the moon was doing that night. "She has a son here too," another parent said one afternoon when Nathan asked casually about Mia. "Oh," he replied, keeping his voice neutral. "Luca, 4th grade, real quiet, nice kid. His dad passed away when he was little." The words hit like a dropped stone. Mia never spoke of herself, never mentioned anything beyond what was immediately necessary. And yet, now that he thought about it, he'd never seen her rush. She never checked a phone, never seemed pulled in two directions at once. She moved like someone who had already lost the worst thing and learned how to live with it. That night, as he watched Charlie sleep, Nathan thought of her again. The way she'd crouched to meet his son's eyes, the calm in her voice, the stillness that didn't come from detachment but from having survived something. He wanted to know more, not out of curiosity but out of something quieter, deeper, like the urge to understand a song you couldn't stop humming. A week later, Mia stopped by his car before heading inside. It was uncharacteristic. She usually avoided one-on-one moments with him. But that afternoon, she lingered near the passenger side, one hand on the open window. "There's a school hike Saturday," she said. "Family Nature Day. Kids collect samples, there's a guide. We always need extra grown-ups." Nathan looked up from his phone. "You want us to come?" "It's not a date," she said, echoing his earlier line. "It's just a trail." He smiled slow. "We'll be there." The morning of the hike, the trailhead parking lot was packed with minivans and muddy Subarus. Charlie was buzzing with excitement, his backpack stuffed with a notebook, magnifying glass, and snacks. Nathan brought water bottles and regret over wearing his newest sneakers. They met the group near the woods. Mia was already there with her son, Luca, a boy with the same dark eyes as her but with sharper features. He hung back a little, arms crossed, watching everything without speaking much. Charlie tugged on Nathan's sleeve. Can I walk with them? Nathan nodded and watched as the two boys slowly fell into step, Charlie talking and gesturing, Luca listening silently but not unkindly. Mia drifted beside Nathan as the group started moving. He's been better lately, she said, since Charlie started including him. Nathan glanced over. Charlie doesn't say much about friends. I wasn't sure if he had any yet. He's made one, she said. That's a start. They walked for a while, the crunch of leaves underfoot filling the silence between them. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, dappling her face. Her hand brushed a branch away without thought. What happened to his father? Nathan asked quietly. Mia didn't look at him. He was a firefighter, got caught in a collapse 3 years ago. He took that in. I'm sorry. She nodded once. It took me a long time to stop waiting for him to walk through the door. Nathan said nothing. The weight of it didn't need answering. After a long pause, she added, people were kind, but they moved on. Luca and I were the ones left behind. Nathan looked ahead at the two boys, still walking in tandem. He seems okay. He's figuring out how to be a person without the person he loved most. Her voice was steady. That kind of thing shapes you. Nathan was quiet for a moment, then said, I don't think I've figured out how to be a person with the people I love. Mia glanced at him, the corner of her mouth lifting. That's not nothing, knowing it. The hike wound through hills and patches of wildflowers, kids collecting leaves and pebbles in plastic bags. By the time they returned to the parking lot, Charlie and Luca were racing ahead, laughing. Mia stood beside Nathan as they watched. They're good together, she said. So are we, he said too quickly. She looked at him, surprised. He opened his mouth to say more, but something in her eyes, guarded, unsure, made him stop. She tilted her head. Let's not name something we're still learning how to hold. Nathan nodded, humbled. Okay. But as they drove home, Charlie asleep in the backseat, Nathan kept one hand on the wheel and one eye on the rearview mirror. Something had shifted, not loudly, not completely. But it had started. By late May, Nathan had learned how to be still. Not all the time, he still took calls, still flew to Chicago twice a month, still fought fires inside Hailtech's endless product launches. But something inside him no longer bolted forward at the sound of an alert. At least not when he was with Charlie. At least not when it was 3 o'clock, and the sky over Brookfield warmed the pavement in a way that reminded him time didn't care what he owned or earned. He had started to wait outside his car at pickup. A small thing, but it mattered to Charlie. He said as much once in his small, quiet voice as they drove home. I like it when you're standing there, he said, not just the car. Nathan didn't say anything. He just reached over and gently rested his hand on Charlie's shoulder until they reached the parking garage. Mia still kept her distance, but the space between them had changed. She greeted him now with her eyes, not just her words. She didn't flinch at conversation, and once, after a thunderstorm swept through and knocked out the school's power, she called him. I have Luca and Charlie, she said. They're doing homework at my place. You can come pick him up when the traffic clears. He had no idea how she'd gotten his number. When he arrived at her house, something in him shifted again. The boys were on the floor playing cards, a bowl of popcorn between them. The lights flickered as the power returned. The window was open, letting in the smell of wet grass and warm wood, and Mia stood in the kitchen, barefoot, hair damp from rain. She handed him a towel as he stepped in. You're soaked. Didn't plan for the flash flood. You work in tech, she said, amused. Shouldn't you have seen the forecast? He grinned. We only see what we think matters. Her smile faded just a little. And what matters to you these days? He met her eyes more than it used to. Mia looked down, stirring something on the stove. Charlie's good for Luca. He's steadier. He's steadier because of you. No, he's steadier because someone finally shows up when he needs them. Nathan took a slow breath. The words weren't a rebuke, not exactly, but they reached inside him, pressed on old guilt like a bruise that never healed. He asked if we could make dinner together sometime, Mia added. All of us. His heart jumped. You mean? A dinner, she said quickly, just a dinner. He nodded, swallowing the rest of his questions. But when he left that night, Charlie clutching a second bowl of popcorn for the road, Mia touched his arm at the door. "You're trying," she said. "That means something." The following Saturday, they cooked. Mia opened her home to them like she'd done it 100 times, as if it wasn't the most vulnerable gesture in the world. She set out ingredients on the counter: pasta, tomatoes, fresh basil from the community garden. Charlie washed vegetables. Luca grated cheese with clinical precision. Nathan took direction poorly, then better. At one point, as water boiled and music played low from her phone, Nathan stood beside Mia, their shoulders brushing lightly. "This isn't what I pictured when I thought about family," he said. She glanced over. "What did you picture?" "I didn't," he admitted. "I thought the job would be enough, that being successful meant I was doing the right thing." She didn't reply right away. Then, softly, "Most people don't realize they're missing something until it stares them in the face." He turned to look at her. "You've been staring at me for a while now." This time she didn't deflect. "Maybe I have." The silence stretched. Then the timer beeped, and the boys ran in, and whatever almost happened folded back into the room like the scent of garlic and warm bread. Later, after dinner, while the boys were playing outside under string lights, Nathan helped her clear plates. They moved around each other with ease, the way people do when they've already memorized each other's rhythms. He dried the last dish and leaned back against the counter. "Do you ever think about starting over?" Mia looked at him, serious now. "Starting over is a myth. You don't erase what came before. You just learn how to carry it differently." He nodded, absorbing that. "I don't want to start over," he said, "but I do want to do it better this time." Her expression changed then, not exactly softening but lowering its walls. A quiet surrender, or maybe a choice. "I believe you," she said. And he didn't press, he didn't need to. That night as they left, Luca offered Charlie a sleepover. Mia looked at Nathan and gave the smallest of nods. "Come back in the morning," she said. The night was cool and dark as Nathan walked back to his car alone, but something in him felt warmer than it had in years, not like fire, not like passion, like soil that had been dry for too long, finally holding rain. The next morning began with quiet. Nathan rose without an alarm. No meetings, no emails, just a message from Mia: "The boys are still asleep. Come when you're ready, coffee's on." He stared at the screen for a long time before setting the phone down and moving through his apartment like a man trying not to disturb something sacred. He brought croissants, not store-bought. He found a place Mia had mentioned in passing weeks ago, a hole-in-the-wall bakery near the lake, and stood in line while morning runners passed by with dogs and music in their ears. He held the box with both hands like it was something fragile. When he reached Mia's porch, the door was already open. She was there, still in an oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back loosely, mug in hand. "Hope you like almond," he said, holding out the box. She took it, lifting the lid slightly. Her smile bloomed, real, slow, unguarded. "I like that you remembered," she said. Inside, the house was sun-drenched and warm. The boys were still cocooned on the couch in a tangle of blankets and cartoons. Luca leaned against Charlie like they'd been doing this all their lives. Nathan took it in slowly, the ordinary miracle of it. This kitchen, these sleepy boys, the morning. "You okay?" Mia asked, pouring him a cup. He nodded. "I don't know what this is yet, us, all of this, but it feels like something real." Mia leaned against the counter, coffee in both hands. "It is." He looked at her, really looked. "Then I don't want to ruin it by moving too fast or assuming too much." She was quiet, thoughtful. "Then you're just here, and I think maybe that's the whole point." Later that afternoon, after the boys had built a fort and Mia had finally coaxed them outside for air, Nathan helped her gather the leftover blankets. As they moved side by side in the living room, he brushed against her, an accidental touch of hands, then deliberate. Their fingers stayed entwined. "Do you miss it?" he asked. She looked at him. "What?" "The old life, the version where you knew what each day looked like." She thought for a long time before answering. "Sometimes, but I also know I was sleepwalking through it." Nathan nodded slowly. Same. He turned toward her, heart thudding like it had years ago when he still let himself want things without analyzing the risk. I don't want to build something temporary, he said. I want to build something that lasts. Her eyes didn't leave his. Then build it slow, build it honestly. A pause. I'm not afraid of slow, he said. She stepped in just slightly until their foreheads touched. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Then stay. So he did. He stayed for dinner again that night, not because it was planned, but because none of them wanted it to end. He stayed when Luca and Charlie begged for one more chapter of the book she was reading aloud. He stayed through the soft sounds of night and the way her house quieted like it had always known how to hold 4 instead of 2. And when the boys finally slept and the house turned still, Mia handed him a blanket and pointed to the couch. For tonight, she said. He didn't ask for more, didn't press. But before she turned away, she leaned down and kissed his cheek. Gentle, intentional, not a promise, not yet. But enough. In the weeks that followed, the rhythm changed again, slowly, steadily. Nathan still had early calls and late nights. Mia still kept her boundaries, her routines, but the boys became inseparable. They shared lunches and library books, secrets and scraped knees. And Nathan learned how to pack a lunch that didn't come from a service. He learned how to braid spaghetti with 2 forks the way Mia did so it didn't clump. He learned how to stop checking his phone when Charlie was talking, even if it buzzed. At school, the other parents began to nod to him like he'd always been part of the fabric. He found himself organizing a field trip, something about circuits and child-safe robotics kits. Mia laughed when he presented the idea to her like a nervous intern. You're actually becoming useful, she teased. Don't let it go to your head, he said. But when she reached for his hand later that day, just briefly in front of everyone, he didn't flinch. He held it like it had always belonged there. The last day of school arrived on a bright June morning. Kids poured out of classrooms with report cards and smudged artwork, parents clutching teacher gifts and damp tissues. Charlie and Luca came out together, arms looped like brothers. Nathan stood with Mia beneath a tree, waiting. When the boys reached them, Charlie held up a handmade card. It's for you and Miss Mia. Nathan opened it. Inside, a shaky drawing, 4 figures standing under a sun. The same house from months ago, but with another tree beside it. 2 hands holding between the trees. Is this us? Mia asked, kneeling. Charlie nodded. I added your tree so Dad's tree wouldn't be lonely anymore. Mia looked up, her eyes shining. Nathan swallowed the lump in his throat. We'll hang it in the kitchen, she said softly, right next to the window. Nathan bent down, brushing Charlie's hair back from his forehead. That sound good to you? Charlie nodded and looked between the two of them. Can we have pancakes tonight? Nathan grinned. Yeah, pancakes sound like a plan. They walked back to the car together, a little boy on each side, fingers linked. Nathan didn't know what the next chapter would hold. He didn't know if they'd ever marry or move in together or blend everything into one perfect picture. But he knew this. He would never miss another pickup. And for the first time in his life, that felt like the highest kind of success.